Good evening. Welcome to the Government News Brief for Tuesday, April 4, 2017. In the news this evening, government expects to save millions switching from Wärtsilä to PPDI. Ministry of Public Infrastructure says prefabricated terminal at CJIA, part of the expansion project contract, and acting director of prisons calls on public to stop discrimination against ex-prisoners. Stay tuned for these and other stories. Thank you for staying with us. I am Ranetta Fleur. Here are the details. It is with deep regret we announce the passing of Steve Narain, a veteran journalist and former member of staff at GINA. Many young journalists would have benefited from his training and his words of wisdom which he imparted on the craft of journalism. He would be fondly remembered for his kindness to his colleagues and animals. Mr. Narain was one of several stalwarts honored by the Guyana Press Association in 2003 for long and outstanding service in the local media. GINA expresses sincere condolences to the family and friends of the late Steve Narain. The switch from Wärtsilä to a wholly owned state company would result in millions being saved at GPL. Here are the details.
Minister of Public Infrastructure David Patram says the new company that will be managing the operations of the Guyana Power and Light Incorporated will save the country money. The company that has taken over from Wärtsilä is the Power Producer and Distribution Incorporated, PPDI. The minister was at the swearing-in of the board of directors for the company today.
The exorbitant rates proposed by the multinational for the new operation and maintenance agreement, the rates range between $15.5 US to $26 US per megawatt, made this decision far easier. We estimate with the establishment of PPDI a savings of at least $3.73 US per megawatt.
Patram says that the money saved can be used to invest in Guyanese and new equipment for future opportunities. He adds that PPDI will also provide employment for Guyanese. Chairman of the board, Mark Bender, says PPDI has a host of competent workers it inherited from Wärtsilä who will strive to achieve the government's green economy.
Although PPDI is a new company, it has also inherited from Wärtsilä Operations Guyana Inc. a cadre of employees with the experience and skill set to effectively provide the quality of service expected by its current client, Guyana Power and Light. The company is also expected to have an expanded role in the future as the government moves forward with its plan to increase electricity supply from clean and renewable sources of energy.
Minister within the Ministry of Public Infrastructure, Annette Ferguson, will be looking to see how the board performs over its 2-year lifespan.
I trust that with your experience, with your ideas, you would be able to advance these ideas or the vision of the government to meet our vision of 2025. However, I know that many of you will be serving for 2 years, and I trust that within that period, we would be able to see some realization of the greening of this green economy.
The new board of directors for the PPDI includes Mark Bender as chairperson, Aaron Fraser as vice chairman, Ronald Birch Smith as secretary. Other board members include Hariram Parmasar, Stephen Fraser, Amanza Walton Desir, Darlene Class, Permanent Secretary, Ministry of Public Infrastructure, Jeffrey Vaughan, and an opposition party member who was yet to be named.
Minister of Public Infrastructure's Permanent Secretary says the prefabricated terminal at the Chedi Jagan International Airport will not incur any additional costs. Details from Gabriela Patram.
Contrary to recent reports in the media that the government would have to purchase the prefabricated terminal at the Chedi Jagan International Airport, CJIA, Permanent Secretary of the Ministry of Public Infrastructure, Jeffrey Vaughan, says that the construction of the terminal is included in the contract.
They are working and it has no cost. as I've been hearing about this big cost, which is, it's no cost, it's part of the temporary works that the contractor will be doing.
The permanent secretary points out that the contractor is aware that the temporary facility would have had to be constructed and should have no difficulty in executing the works. He says the temporary building would be used in the interim while the contractors work on the permanent structure for passengers.
The prefabricated terminal basically at CGIA is basically being used for the arrival, and it's a temporary system that has been put in place for arrival so that we can facilitate the construction work that needs to go on the permanent structures.
The U.S. $150 million project, which began in 2013 under the previous administration, missed several deadlines. However, it is scheduled to be completed by the end of 2017, Vaughan says. For the Government News Brief, Gabriela Patram.
The acting director of prisons wants the public to stop discriminating against persons who would have completed their period of incarceration. Isaiah Braffett tells us more.
Acting Director of Prisons Gladwin Samuel says the Guyana Prison Service will be launching a public education program to help remove the stigma attached to ex-prisoners.
In terms of causing the public to understand what is being done, we will commence a TV series soon, whereby inmates themselves will share with the public as it relates to training opportunities that were afforded to them while in the prison. Also, we will be utilizing the inmates to allow them to sensitize members of the public why they should not find themselves committing offenses that will lead them to come to prison.
The acting director feels that once the general public is more accepting, persons who would have passed through the prison system would be allowed to contribute meaningfully to society without being stigmatized.
All they know about prison is probably what they see on television or what they would have read. But behind those four walls, several opportunities are offered to prisoners so as to make them better persons for when they're released from the facilities.
Samuel says when persons are incarcerated, they're exposed to both literacy and skills training.
There is some degree or some percentage of recidivism. However, our record would show that several persons who would have entered prison and having been exposed to rehabilitative training, they have not returned to prison. I guess what is important for society is education, and I trust that this program will serve to enlighten the public as it relates to some of the activities that are taking place in prison.
Samuel says that the program will not only educate the public but also give guidance to potential offenders so that they can learn from the experience of prisoners. Samuel says that the main mandate of the Guyana Prison Service is to ensure prisoners are rehabilitated and properly reintegrated into society upon release. Delon, Sancho for the Government News Brief.
Residents of Region 8 want closer collaboration with the Kaichor National Park to boost community development. More in this Gabriela Patram report.
Residents of Chinapao, Karasparo, and Paramakatoy Region 8 are asking for a much closer collaboration with the Kaichor National Park in order to assist with the development of their community. The Kaichor National Park is famous for the Kaichor Falls, one of the most powerful waterfalls in the world. The park is the most visited attraction in Guyana, with about 6,000 visitors annually. Chinapao is the closest community to the park. The residents want to establish a benab in the park to sell their craft and other produce. It would be available for other villages, says Edward Magarel, a resident of Chinapao.
What we were thinking at our last public meeting, we want to make a benab in the park so we can sell crafts, local foods, beverages, and not just Chinapao. It will be open to the entire region because Kaichor, as most of you may know, is not a thing just about Chinapao. It's about the Patramuna nation of the region. So with us building this benab, we'll make contact with all other communities that they can bring in their craft and their different type of food, beverages, and whatever, so that we can have a benefit that everybody within our region can at least get something.
The issue was raised during a recent ministerial outreach in Cato. Minister of Communities Ronald Bolkan and of Social Cohesion Dr. George Norton and Minister within the Ministry of Indigenous Peoples Affairs Valerie Garrido Lowe was part of the outreach. Minister Garrido Lowe told the residents to send their proposal to the ministry and they will make representation on their behalf. The Kaitro National Park is a protected area managed under the Protected Areas Commission. The Amerindian Act of 2006 allows the indigenous peoples within the area to have rights over the lands in and around the park. Additionally, the Kaitro National Park Amendment Act of 2000 allows the people to enjoy the right to fish, hunt, and promote sustainable forest and wildlife management. For the Government News Brief, Gabriela Patram.
Barmita is the latest mining community to benefit from the Ministry of Natural Resources A Clean Environment project. Details in this report.
The community has been supplied with 35 waste drums to support a cleaner, litter-free Barmita. Tushaw of the village, Trevor Matheson, received the items from Environmental Awareness Coordinator in the Ministry of Natural Resources, Dr. Lachman Punalal, and Minister of Indigenous Peoples Affairs, Sydney Alicock, at a simple handing over ceremony held in the village.
We are privileged to hand over these bins to the community of Barmita so that they can progress and have a clean community and a clean environment. We are encouraging them to stay clean because cleanliness is next to godliness.
Barmita is benefiting under a clean environment project from a specific dumping site to contain and manage the mining waste generated in the community. Minister Alicock notes the importance of having a dump site.
Mining brings in or breeds garbage in heavy consumption, if that's right. I'm saying garbage because they would have to import items that is not either biodegradable or pleasing to the site, and you must have that sort of a disposable area.
The Ministry of Natural Resources, its Clean Environment project, is in keeping with the government's drive to promote a clean and green environment. The ministry is implementing the project through the Guyana Geology and Mines Commission, GGMC, in collaboration with the regional authorities and community leaders. Communities that have thus far benefited include Kokwani, Bartika, Mabruma, Port Kaituma, Lethem, and Itabali. Zinil Williams reporting for the Government News Brief.
We have come to the end of today's edition of the Government News Brief. The details of these and other stories can be found on GINA's website. GINA has an active Facebook page and we encourage you to visit and like us so you can be informed as the news unfolds. Do join us again tomorrow for another edition of the Government News Brief. I am Ranetta Fleur. Thank you for watching.